have a conversation about, you can actually have a form of conversation between a student and a lecturer, okay? You may have a conversation about a form of advertisement. So all of these are very, very important for you to listen to. And another strategy, again, you need to understand under listening is progressively difficult. How do I mean by progressively difficult? The first section, which is section 1, will contain 10 questions. For that 10 question, that is likely to be very, very easy. The 10 questions will be very easy. Then you will now proceed to section 2, which is usually from 11 to 20. That 11 to 20, which is section 2, will be a little bit difficult. All right? If you examine or you look at section 3, which is usually from 21 to 30, it's going to be difficult, not very difficult. Then when you examine section 4, which is from 31 to 40, that is the most difficult. So IELTS listening is progressively difficult. Section 1 will not be difficult that much. Section 2 as well too, a little bit difficult. Section 3 will be difficult, while section 4 will be very much difficult. And another strategy again, which is the fourth strategy, is diagram. I have seen a situation in which a lot of students ask questions that how they interpret diagram in IELTS listening. Now, the essence of this particular lesson, webinar or class, is to make you understand that diagram is essential in listening. And one of the things I would like you to know about diagram is you need to study navigations. Yes, ability to study navigations. You must know your cardinal points. How do you locate the east? How do you locate the west? How do you locate the north? How do you locate the south? You must know each part of this cardinal points for you to do excellently well in diagram. The north is always the upward direction, okay? While the east is always the left-hand side. The east is always the right-hand side, rather. The west is always the left-hand side. Then the south is always the down part. That's the downward aspects. Another thing, again, I would like us to understand in listening, very importantly, is listening entails detailed attention. Detailed attention. Listening requires detailed attention. If by any chance you're distracted by anything at all, what happens is that you will lose focus. So what have I mentioned as the strategies for listening? Number 1, instruction. Please pay attention to instruction. The first thing to do is, before you read the question, kindly read the instruction. In some instruction, you might be given in not more than 1 word, not more than 2 words, not more than 3 words. Do you understand? So pay attention to each of these instructions. It's very important. Number 2 is what? Concentration. Concentration is very, very important in listening. And number 3, please don't pay attention to accents. Don't pay attention to pronunciation. Rather, pay attention to the content. Pay attention to the meaning of what is communicated by the native speakers. Yes, because imagine if you're paying attention to accents, we have varieties of English. We have the British, we have the American, we have the Canadian, we have the Scottish, we have the Irish. So we have different varieties of English. So if you have to pay attention to accents, that means you will not be able to understand the conversation. I hope you understand this now, class. Then the next strategy I mentioned is talking about the diagram. Yes, for those doing general training or academic, you may likely come across a diagram. It's very, very important. Now, for this diagram, like I told you, one thing you need to do is you need to study the diagram, observe it very well. Having observed the diagram, then you need to identify your cardinal points. Okay, like I mentioned, the left-hand side, okay, is always the west. Do you understand? The right-hand side is always the east. The upper part is always the north, and the down part is always the south. What this means is that when the conversation starts in the diagram, the examiner will never mention east or west or north or south. No, the examiner would use turn to the right, turn to the left, move upward. Do you see that now? So how would you locate move upward? How would you locate turn to the left, turn to the right? You can only use these cardinal points to locate it. Yes. That's why diagram is an aspect where you need to pay attention to the speaker's meaning, the content, what the speaker is talking about. Then, another thing again, which is very, very important in listening, is your handwriting. Please ensure you write legibly well. Spelling is very, very crucial. Yes, because under spelling, I will need you to learn English words, learn most English words, and learn most English names under listening. If you're able to learn English words and English names, what happens? That helps you when the examiner mentions a particular English name, you would know. And there are cases where the speaker might intend to spell that actual name. Let's say, for instance, James. The examiner would decide to spell the word James. And the spelling would have to be in rapid succession, very, very quick, very, very fast. The reason is so you can listen attentively and get the spelling. That is the essence. So if you're not paying attention to listen to when the examiner mentions each of these words, you will miss out. Yes, if you don't pay attention, you're likely to miss out. Please, while you're listening to me, I would like you to write. I'm going to take a summary of this listening, then I'll move to the next module. The first thing I mentioned is the Iot. I want you to scribble this down, jot it down if you're listening to me. It is very, very important, so that will guide you. The Iot contains 4 aspects: Section 1, Section 2, Section 3, and Section 4. Please write this down, it's very, very important. And Section 1, you have questions from 1 to 10. Section 2, you have questions from 11 to 20. Section 3, you have questions from 21 to 30. Then Section 4, you have questions from 31 to 40. The Iot listening is progressively difficult, meaning that Section 1 will be a very bit easier. Section 2 will be a little bit hard. Section 3 will be what? Difficult. While Section 4 will be the most difficult. It is progressively difficult. Okay? And what are the strategies that you're supposed to learn? For Iot listening, it takes 30 minutes for you to listen to the recorded audio. Once you're done listening to that, then the answers you've written in the question paper, you would have to transfer it to a plain answer booklet, and you'll be given 10 minutes to do that. Please, in Iot, it is acceptable that you use a pencil. Please take note of that. It is acceptable that you use pencil. Most appropriately, you use pencil. Yes. You use pencil in answering your questions. We don't write with pen. Though some centers may allow you to use a black pen to write. But bear it in mind, we use pencil in Iot. For all the 4 modules, we use pencil. I hope this is clear, class. Now let's proceed to the next one. The strategies that I will be mentioning is instruction number 1, spellings number 2, listen for content and not for accent or pronunciation. Okay? Now, another thing again, which is very, very important, is try as much as possible to listen for the meaning that is communicated to you. Another aspect again, which is very much important, is the diagram. For the diagram, I've told you the strategy you need to do is learn how to observe a diagram very, very well. If you're able to do that, then the next thing you need to do after once I've observed the diagram is know your cardinal axis, know your cardinal points. That will guide you. I hope this is clear, class. Now let's proceed to the next part. After listening, I'm proceeding to reading. Now let me explain the nature of reading to you. Now, in Iot reading, you'll be given 60 minutes. 60 minutes is equivalent to 1 hour. So you'll be given 60 minutes to read 3 passages. All right, so that means that you have 60 minutes to read 3 passages. You would have reading passage 1, reading passage 2, and reading passage 3. The total number of questions you will have in Iot reading is 40. You have 40 questions in Iot reading. Okay, now for these 40 questions, what you need to do basically is you need to understand that you have 20 minutes to complete reading passage 1. You have 20 minutes to complete reading passage 2, and you have 20 minutes to complete reading passage 3. And in Iot reading, there are different question types that you will come across. What are they, for example? You would come across true, false, not given question. Please, I need you to write most of these things down. They are very, very important. True, false, not given question. And your answer can only be true if the statement you're giving agrees or corresponds with the information in the passage. It will be true. It can only be false if the statement you're giving contradicts the information in the passage. And it can only be not given if the statement you're given does not appear in the passage. I hope this is clear, class. There's also another aspect called yes, no, not given. Then there's also another aspect known as matching headings. Now, for matching headings, you would have a list of words, okay? You would have a list of words, a list of sentences. And what you're supposed to do is you would have to read the first paragraph and you match it with the headings. You read the first paragraph, look for a particular statement or sentence that matches with that paragraph. Okay? Look for a particular statement or sentence that matches with the paragraph you read. And one thing I want to teach very importantly is for reading comprehension passages under matching headings. When you read paragraph A, all you have to do is pick out the topic sentence from that paragraph you read. Compare that topic sentence you've picked to any particular sentence that has been listed. If you compare it, you will come across a particular sentence that corresponds with your topic sentence. So that sentence that corresponds with your topic sentence is the answer. For instance, I've read the first paragraph. Then I'm able to pick a topic sentence from that paragraph I've read. I will compare that topic sentence with the list of the statements. If I compare with the list of the statements, I will come across a particular statement that corresponds with the topic sentence. Yes. By the time I'm able to do that, I've gotten the answer ready. So, for you to ascertain your answer in matching headings, you need to know how to pick topic sentences. What is a topic sentence? A topic sentence is the sentence that explains what that paragraph is all about. A topic sentence is that sentence that summarizes, that explains, that carries the major meaning, that conveys the author's reason, or author's point, author's main idea. That's that particular topic sentence. Another thing again is for matching headings, each of the paragraph will be lettered. The first paragraph will be lettered A, the second paragraph will be lettered B, the third paragraph will be lettered C, the fourth paragraph will be lettered D. So what you're supposed to do is you use paragraph approach. Ensure to use paragraph approach. And what is paragraph approach? What you're supposed to do is pick the first paragraph, okay, read it, and compare it with any particular statement or any particular sentence to which you have. All right? Now, let's proceed to the next aspect. You're likely to find fill in the gap question. What is about filling the gap? In filling the gap, what you're supposed to do is what? You're supposed to read and understand the passage very well. Filling the gap is always the most difficult, and I usually advise to attempt filling the gap first. Why? Because it's time consuming. So if you attempt, you're likely to have a dash. Okay? So where you have a blank, what you're supposed to do there is to fill in a particular word, and that word must be very suitable to the structure of the sentence. The word must be very suitable to the structure of the sentence. If the word doesn't fit into the sentence appropriately, that will be very, very wrong. I hope you understand, class. Now, that is filling the gap. Another question type that you're most likely to be asked under Iot reading is what is known as multiple choice question. Multiple choice question. How do you attempt a multiple choice question? I'm going to give us an approach. It's very, very important. Please ensure you listen. What is this approach about? For multiple choice question, having read the passage, okay, read the question. Look at the options very, very well. Look at option letter A, option letter B, option letter C, and option letter D. You know, in multiple choice question, you're meant to pick just one answer. What you're supposed to do there is any option that does not correspond to the question that you're asked, please eliminate it. Yes, rule it out. For instance, if I have option letter A, B, C, and D, and A and B does not correspond to the question based on my understanding of the passage, what will I do? I'll have to what? I'll have to rule it out or eliminate it. Then what will I do next? I will now compare option letter C and D. Once I'm able to compare option letter C and D, then I'll be able to pick the most appropriate. I'll be able to pick the most appropriate option. So remember, what have I been able to teach under multiple choice question? I said, read the question, eliminate 2 options out of 4. Eliminate 2 options that are not in any way related to the answer. Compare and contrast the remaining 2 options and pick the right or the most appropriate answer. I hope this is clear, class. Now, if this is understood, now let's proceed to the aspect of Iot writing. Yes, I've been able to explain the strategies for reading. And please, when you're reading, there are things I will need to tell you. When you're reading, there are errors that test takers always make. What are those errors? Now, these errors are what? Please, when you're reading, you're not supposed to finger trace. Finger tracing is a poor habit of reading. 2, when you're reading, you're not supposed to adjust your neck or your head. No, don't move your head or your neck when you're reading. Position or station your neck in a particular position. Station it in a particular position. And when you're reading, ensure your eyeball, use your eyeball to read. Make sure that your eyeball is going through the words as you read. It's very, very important. Yes, read with your eyeball. If you're able to implement all these strategies that I'm teaching, it will really help to improve your reading. Number 1, don't finger trace. Don't use your finger to start touching each of the words as you read. It's wrong. Allow your eyeball to scroll through the words. And don't adjust your neck. Some people, when they read, they keep moving their neck from one position to another. No, station your head in a particular position. Once you're able to station it, then you'll be able to use your eyeball. Your eyeball can help you capture the words in clusters. There's a ciliary muscle that holds the eyeball bound. It helps you to move upward, downward, left, and right. So you can read very fast using what? Using your eyeball. Number 3 again is, please, when you're reading, don't vocalize. Don't say the wordings out. Please, it's a bad way of reading. These are one of the things that affects my students that I've seen so far. It's a bad way of reading. Ensure not to vocalize. Don't say anything out. Allow the reading process to go through your mind. Read inwardly. Yes. Read internally. Don't vocalize. Stop vocalizing. If you're the type that when you're reading, you're saying it out. Some people, they say, when they're saying it out, they're likely to, understand it better. No. You won't understand it when you're reading it out. Why? Because that is likely to distract you. The voices that you're hearing will distract you. Now, another thing again, very important in reading is ensure that your attention is in what you're reading. Yes, make sure your mind is in what you're reading, please. Concentration is the ultimate in reading. If your mind is not in what you're reading, there's no how you understand it. You won't get it. You won't understand it. So reader's frame of mind is very important. As a reader, make sure your frame of mind is in what you're reading. Yes, don't be deviated by thoughts, by worry, by emotion, because there are certain things that will affect you. There are external distractions such as noise. There are internal distractions such as worry or hunger or sleep. So many things can distract you. Please abide with these strategies that I'm mentioning, and I would advise if you would write them down and you work with them. Next aspect, under reading. Some people, they find it very difficult to complete the reading section 1 or reading part 1 within 20 minutes. They find it very difficult. The reading passage 1 takes 20 minutes. Some people cannot complete this reading passage within 20 minutes. You need to be time conscious. You need to be time conscious, and you have to improve your reading speed. How would you improve your reading speed? By listening to these strategies that I mentioned. Do not vocalize. Do not finger trace. Do not adjust your neck from one position to another when you're reading. It's wrong. It's very, very wrong. And reader's frame of mind, that's concentration, is very important. Just try as much as possible to implement most of these strategies I'm teaching. You will see how your reading will improve. Then, let's look at writing, Iot writing. Now, in Iot writing, you'll be given 1 hour to complete 2 taxes. You'll be given 1 hour to complete 2 taxes. Iot writing takes 60 minutes. Yes, Iot writing takes 60 minutes. And you have 2 taxes. You would have for tax 1. For those that are interested in academics, okay, for Iot Academic, those that are interested in academic, you have diagram interpretation for tax 1. Then for Iot general training, you would have what is known as letter writing. So the letter writing can be a formal letter or an informal letter or even a semi-formal letter. Can be any of this type of letter. What are you supposed to do? Please go back and remember and study adequately what a formal letter is. How do you write a formal letter? And what writing, most especially for tax 1, for general training, is that you don't need any address. You're not required to provide any address. You start with salutation. Dear sir or madam. Please don't use ma. Ma is informal. Don't use mine. Okay? It's not acceptable. Dear sir or madam. Title or heading is optional. It's not very compulsory. If you choose to write heading, fine. If you don't choose to write it, no problem. Examiners are not really interested in grading you for title. Then the body of the letter. After the body of the letter, complementary clause. Usually for a formal letter, you have yours faithfully, mostly acceptable. Y of yours in capital letter. There shouldn't be any form of apostrophe either before the S or after the S. F of faithfully should be written in small letter. You place a comma. You will sign and write your full name. That's for formal letter. Then for informal letter, now, what you're supposed to do is you have to provide the salutation, dear Informa, dear Kunle, the K of Kunle in capital letter, the I of Informa in capital letter, you place a comma. You write the body of the letter, which will be structured in different paragraphs. Yes, please ensure that it is structured in different paragraphs, and you must have transitions for each paragraph. What do I mean by transition? The first paragraph, you can start with firstly, or beginning with, or starting with, you place a comma. In the second paragraph, you can use in addition, you can use for, you can use also, you can use secondly, ensure to place a comma. In the third paragraph, you can use furthermore, you can use similarly, you can use in view of this, you can use sequel to this. Do you understand? You also ensure to place comma for each of these transitions or paragraphical linkers. Then for the last paragraph, you can use finally, you can use lastly. It is very, very important. I hope this is clear, class. Now, examiner begins the marking, okay? Examiner begins the marking with the body. Yes, the body of the letter. That's where the examiner starts marking. And I'm going to review to you the requirements of the examiner. Yes, I'm going to review to you the requirements of the examiner under writing. Now, for semi-formal letter, they are usually letters to which you write to either a doctor, do you understand, or you address it to the landlord of anywhere you're living, okay? Now, also take note that you can also address an informal letter to your pastor. Oh, sorry, a semi-formal letter to your pastor. You write a semi-formal letter to your pastor, to your doctor, to the house owner, as a landlord or a landlady. These are specific people to which you write a semi-formal letter to. And semi-formal letter usually carry to dear Alaji this, dear Dr. this, dear Alaji Mustafa. Then you write the body. Okay, like I said, title or heading is not very compulsory. Then after the body of that writing, you would have to what? You would have to sign. You would have to write yours sincerely, you append your signature, and you write your full name. That is a complimentary clause for a semi-formal letter. Let me take that again. Yours sincerely, all right? Y of yours in capital letter, no apostrophe either before the S or after the S. Then you write sincerely, S of sincerely in small letter, you place a comma, you would have to sign, then you write your full name. Is this taking class? Now, let's proceed to tax 2. Now, let me also remind you that tax 1 takes 20 minutes. This letter writing I'm talking about, it takes 20 minutes. Then for those that are doing academic, okay, you're meant to interpret a diagram. The diagram can be histogram, it can even be table. So what you're supposed to do is, let me give you 3 strategies that are very, very important. Number 1 is what? Introduction. You have to introduce. The introduction is basically you trying to restate the topic. I hope you understand, class. You're trying to restate the topic that you're giving. Number 2 is in the body of your writing, you will have to report the main features of the diagram. Report the main features of the diagram. That's the second strategy. The first one I said is introduction. And introduction is basically about you trying to restate the information, restate the topic that has been given to you. Number 2 is what? Try as much as possible to summarize the main features. Summarize the main features that you can observe in the diagram. Then number 3, which is the final part, ensure to conclude. Conclusion is the final part. How do you possibly conclude? You can conclude by trying to state your observation, your final observation, or you can show comparison and contrast where it is necessary in the diagram. Okay? These are very, very important for you to follow. Then, what are examiners expecting? Okay, before I discuss that, let me look at tax 2. Tax 2 is purely an essay. That's an opinion essay. Tax 2 is purely an essay, and tax 2 is meant for both general training candidates and academic candidates. Yes, both of them will attend tax 2, because tax 2 takes 40 minutes. Tax 2 takes an essay topic, and you're meant to pour out your opinion, express yourself. Is that taking class? Now, look at this, for example. What are the type of questions that you're likely to find in tax 2 of Ielts? Number 1, do you agree or disagree with this view? Very compulsory question. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this view? A very compulsory question. Okay? Is this a positive or negative development? A very important question. Now, you can be given a question about explain both of these views and state your own opinion. Meaning you're meant to explain the two views and state your own opinion. So once you're able to explain the two views, in the final paragraph, you have to state your own opinion. What strategy would you apply in tax 2 of Ielts? And the strategy is this. Number 1, you must have an introduction. Number 2, the body or the content of the writing, which will be arranged in different paragraphs. And number 3, you would have to conclude. For tax 1 in Iot writing, the length of word is not less than 150 words. For tax 2, the length of word is not less than 250 words. Now let me advise you. What I usually tell my students is this. For Iot writing, ensure to start with what? Start with tax 2. You know the reason? Tax 2 has more mark than tax 1. Number 2, apart from that, tax 2 is time consuming. But if you're able to finish tax 2 before that 40 minutes, you can devote the other time, the remaining time, to tax 1. That will really help you so much. So start with tax 2. By the time you finish tax 2, you start with tax 1. Examiner will give you both of them, both tax 1 and tax 2. Okay, and you now choose which one to answer first. So I will advise that you answer tax 2 first. Once you're done with tax 2, you now attend tax 1. I hope this is clear, class. Good. Now, what are the examiner's requirements? Number 1, there's something called tax achievement. TA, tax achievement. Please, I would like you to write most of these things down as you're listening to this webinar. It's very, very important. Tax achievement. What is tax achievement? Tax achievement refers to your ability to complete that given task at the stipulated time. Number 2, tax achievement is also about trying to meet up in terms of content, trying to answer every aspect of the question. Don't answer an aspect and leave out another aspect. For example, if a question asks you, discuss both these views and give your own opinion. Can you see that now? So it means that you're supposed to discuss the two views and you're also meant to give your own personal opinion. Can you see that now? So, number 2, under the requirement that you'll be given is try as much as possible, okay? Try as much as possible to complete the task at a given time. Another aspect is coherence and cohesion. Coherence and cohesion. What's coherence and cohesion? You know, when you're writing, your ability to logically link ideas together through the use of conjunctions, through the use of adverbs within the body is very, very important. Coherence and cohesion is how are you able to structure your sentences? How are you able to structure your words? How are you able to logically link ideas within the paragraph to make comprehensive meaning. That's coherence and cohesion. Then the next one again, which is very, very important, is the aspect of grammatical range and accuracy. How well do you know how to use different parts of speech in English? Are you conversant with pronouns, nouns, verbs, adverbs, adjective, conjunction, interjection? All of those words, they help you to express or to indicate how you feel. So you're supposed to use them when you're writing. Okay? Now I've mentioned task achievement, coherence and cohesion, then grammatical range and accuracy. The last one is called lexical resource. Another name for lexical resource is called vocabulary. Please, in your writing, don't try as much as possible to use a very complex vocabulary. You can use simple vocabulary to explain how you feel. Yes, you can use simple vocabulary, but don't let it be too common vocabulary. Yes, it doesn't stop you from learning, all right, or building yourself with the use of vocabulary, but don't use a very complex vocabulary expressing yourself. I hope this is clear, class. Now, let's move to the last module, which is called the speaking module. Yes, for the general training candidates, you're likely to have speaking as the first test, okay? Now, for the speaking can be simple but very, very complex. Very, very complex, I must tell you. For speaking, all right, you'll be having 3 parts. Speaking is divided into 3 parts. The first part is called introduction or interview, and that takes between 4 to 5 minutes. What do I mean by introduction or interview? Examiner gets to ask you questions about your work, your studies, your family. Do you understand? Familiar topics that are related to you. And that takes within 4 to 5 minutes. Part 2, you'll be asked to describe something. Describe a writer that you would love to meet. Can you say that now? Describe a writer that you would love to meet, or describe a restaurant that you often visit. You must certainly describe something under part 2. And what are you supposed to do in that case? Now, examiner will give you the question, okay? And you would have 1 minute to prepare what you're to say, and you're meant to speak for 2 minutes without any form of interruption. The examiner will allow you to speak for 2 minutes without interrupting you, okay? Now, what that means is that as you're speaking, examiners are looking out for so many things, which I will mention under this. Examiners will be looking out for different things. And bear in mind, during the speaking session, everything you say is always recorded. From the beginning of the speaking to the end is practically recorded. So examiner can only grade you by listening to what you've said, okay? What you've said during the speaking session. So examiner can listen to the recorded speaking session for about 2 or 3 times before grading you. I hope that is clear, class. Now let's proceed. That is for part 2. For part 3 is usually a 2-way discussion, and it's usually turn taking. What do I mean by that? Examiner will ask you questions, and the examiner will give you time to respond. After which, examiner will ask another question. You understand? It will be turn taking in that process. Asking you a question, then you responding, ask you a question again, and you responding. It will be in that form. I hope this is clear. Now, let's continue. These 3 parts are very, very essential, and it's going to take between just 11 to 15 minutes. 11 to 15 minutes is the speaking. Speaking takes 11. Some might stop at 14. Some might stop at 15 minutes. That's the speaking session. It takes, at maximum 15 minutes. That's the speaking session. Please, I'd like you to pay attention to this. Then, during the speaking, what are the examiners expecting from you? Number 1 is, please write this down. These are the strategies for speaking now. Number 1 is called pronunciation. Class, pronunciation is different from accent. Yes, pronunciation is different from accent. Examiner does not want you to form any particular accent. Yes, don't fake it. Speak naturally. Do you understand? Pronunciation is different from accent. Pronunciation demands that you say it the way it ought to be said. Pronounce the word the way it ought to be pronounced. Don't try as much as possible to form any accents, maybe a British accent or American accent. No, speak naturally. That's number 1. Pronunciation is very, very important. And what are you supposed to do? Please, you can practice more on how to pronounce words. Yes, practice on how to pronounce words very, very well. For instance, in a day, you can practice about 5 to 10 words. Learn how to pronounce 5 to 10 words in a day. That's going to help you. And how would you do that? Use the dictionary. Use the dictionary to study that. You can use the electronic dictionary where you have the sound. You have the sound. You can click on the sound to listen to the pronunciation. You can as well check for the transcription. Okay. Now, another aspect again, apart from pronunciation, is under speaking. Try as much as possible to speak up, be audible. Yes. Number 3, composure. Please sit very, very well during speaking. Don't sit anyhow. Don't be too relaxed. Okay? Don't be too relaxed. Try as much as possible to speak up. And don't give one-word answer. Don't give one-word answer. Why do I mean by don't give one-word answer? If you ask a question, where do you live? Don't just say Lagos. Do you understand? Yes. Ensure you give a detailed answer. An example can be, where do you live? I live in Alagomeji, in Yaba local government, Lagos State, Nigeria. Can you say that now? So you're able to give details. You're able to give details. It's very, very essential. Then let's proceed to the next one. The next one is, under speaking, don't be too formal. You can smile while it's necessary. Don't be too formal. Try as much as possible to communicate your feeling. Okay? Try as much as possible to communicate your feeling when it is necessary. Yes. And in a case where you did not hear what the examiner asked you, please don't say, what did you say? Or, excuse me. No. Try to say it politely. Please, may you reiterate. Please, may you recall. Do you understand? Say it politely. It is very important. It helps to count for you when you address the examiner politely. And dress very well too on the day of exam. Please, dress very well. It's necessary. Now, another thing again that is very important under speaking is, it is possible for you to take just a few seconds to think about what you're to say, instead of just rushing to say what is not related to the question you are asked. If you ask a question and you feel the question is tough or challenging, you can ask the examiner, please, may I have a few seconds to think about this question? The examiner will give you a few seconds to think about it before you start answering. It's very important. You can have a few seconds to think about it. Then, for speaking, now, I would like you to study every aspect. What do I mean by every aspect? For some students that I've seen so well, they will tell me, I just pray that they ask me something that I'm familiar with. No, that might not work out. There are times that you might be asked something that is strange to you. It might be about celebration, it might be about leadership, it might be about school. Do you understand? It might be about friends, it might be about family. So what if you're not conversant with the topic that the examiner engages you with? What would you do? That is why I usually advise students, make sure you're very conversant with every aspect, every areas, okay? That is for speaking. Now, I've been able to give you all the necessary strategies. For speaking, try to reduce mumbling. What do I mean by mumbling? I'm not saying you shouldn't mumble, but try to reduce it. You know, reduce saying, no, reduce it. No, reduce it. You can mumble, but try as much as possible to reduce it. Okay? Yes, and concentration is very important in speaking. Concentrate. When you're speaking, you can look at the examiner face to face when you're communicating. I have a few seconds to the end of this webinar. Okay? I have just 3 minutes. Please, if you have any particular question, okay, concerning, I've been able to touch all the 4 modules for Ielts. I have just about 3 minutes. This is 11:27. So if you have any question, I would like you to ask me, okay? If you have any particular question, I would like to see the question. Okay, let me take some question. Mr. Michael Oladipupo said, can someone ask the examiner to repeat question not fully understood? Yes, definitely you can ask the examiner, and you must ask the examiner politely. I gave an example or an instance. You could say, for instance, please may you reiterate, or please may you recall. Yes, you can use that. It's very, very important. It's very, very important. Okay, I noticed that a hand is raised. Please, if you have a question, you can ask. If you have a question, you can ask. I'm taking questions now before the end of. Someone said, Maduka said, he said no address is needed. Just start your letter with, yes, dear sir or madam. Yes. For the letter, examiner do not need your address at all. Just start the letter with, dear sir. The S of sir in capital letter, the M of madam in capital letter, and you place a comma. It's very necessary. Okay. Then Maduka said, did you say no address for the formal letters? You're not required to provide any particular address, okay? You start the letter with salutation, okay? Now, I'm looking at the questions that was being sent, so I'm answering them, okay? Said, yes, there is a tutorial. You can enroll at one of our centers close to you. Okay, that's one of them. So let me read another question. Hi, Diola, okay. Any other question? Please, if you have a question, you may ask me. All right.
Okay. Thank you so much, Grace. I can see some people's hands are raised. That session was very, very bad. I will just take a couple things. How about some of us that have the American accent? I think that's fine. He mentioned it, but do not fake. Prince, can you take that question? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm trying to. Okay, is there any question?
Can you see the chat box?
Okay, I'm trying to. Yes, I can see it now. Okay, he said, please, how about some of us that have American accents? Yes, if you have an American accent, please maintain consistency with it. Yes, maintain consistency with it. Very, very important. Yes, speak naturally. Even if you have American accent, speak naturally. What I'm mostly talking about is, there are some people that they want to impress the examiner, and for that reason, they want to speak such a way that, the examiner will feel so impressed. No, if you're good with the American accent, go ahead with it. Nigerians who want to fake a particular accent, please don't do that. Don't do that. Someone is asking, what is the difference between matching headings and matching authors in?
Okay.
So there's also. Okay, I have a question by Olabisi Kolawole. Said, in a formal letter, will the heading of the letter be written after the salutation? No, the structure is this. You have a salutation first. Do you understand? Yes, after the salutation, then you now have the heading or title. After the salutation, you have the heading or title. So you have salutation first. After salutation, you have heading. But like I told you, the heading is not compulsory, it's optional. And someone is asking, is there any difference between British Council, IDPs, and Cambridge Ielts? Okay, these are just different branches. Okay, these are just different branches of where you could possibly take the Ielts. Okay, and someone else is also asking, Bimbola, okay, that's Bimbo, Adetola. Okay, are they all accepted UK for UKVI? Okay, yes, these branches, which is British Council, IDP, Cambridge Ielts, they're just branches and they all accept UKVI. Okay, they all accept UKVI. Yes, someone is asking, what is the strategy for Ielts reading, especially matching headings? For matching headings, remember I told you you're meant to use paragraph approach. I was able to explain the paragraph approach. Please, you can listen to the paragraph approach very, very well. Okay. Someone is also asking, Please, which material do you recommend for us to use to prepare for Iot, sir? Yes. Basically, the Baron is fine. Baron is fine. Iot Baron is okay if you can get that. Baron is fine. So what is the difference? Samuel is saying, what is the difference between Iot Academic and General? The only difference is just in reading, that's the first, and also in writing tax 1. Reading and writing tax 1. The content of reading for academic is basically for educational purposes, while the content of reading for general training is basically business related, entrepreneur, business related, and so on like that. So
I can see a comment on someone that missed the diagram explanation. We will have the video recording with website recorded. Yes, so you get a link.
They can listen to it again. So
exactly. Thank you so much. I know we are running out of time already. I'm like really sorry about that. But let me see. So I don't know if he's not ready, then we'll probably take somebody else. The video recording. Video recording will be available to everybody that's registered for this. We will send a link to it. Since Temitope is not here, we might just go with the next hand here. Yemi. So you can ask your question if we'll just give them a minute. If they come up, then fine. If not, we'll close. And while we are waiting for them to come up, what plan do you recommend to score to help you score at least? Okay. Okay, I think none of them is going on. Let's have the last person. Lucky, you have the mic now.
Everyone, good morning, everyone. I wanted to confirm, like for the CBT, Idps CBT, we wanted to use pencil to, like, can you hear me? Okay, we need to use pencil to, like, we won't be needing pencil because of, like, I think I was on call when I asked the question, so I don't know whether it was answered. We won't still need to write with pencil during the CBT. Did you get the question?
No, I could barely hear him. I don't know if it could be reiterated. If Mary can help reiterate.
Yeah, I said for the CBT, we won't need to use pencil to write. Is there need for pencil, like to write? Will there be occasion where you need to write with pencil during the CBT exam, not the paper test?
If it is CBT, you'll be given a system and it will be programmed such a way that you're typing your answers. Do you understand? And for the word count, the system can help you do that. The word count.
Okay.
For tax 1, for tax 1, 150 word. For tax 2, 250 word. So you don't need to write. You just type it into the system and you submit once you're done.
Okay. Will the word count be showing on the system? The word count will be showing on the system?
Yeah, below it. As you're typing, as you're entering each word, below it, you will see it there.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, as you're typing, you will find it there.
Okay.
So the system will be programmed such a way that even when you make errors, you will notice. Do you understand?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I think
any other question?
I can't see any. Okay, I think a couple of people are asking if they can have the recording. Yes, again, we will send a copy of the link to everyone who registered. I don't know if I'm missing some question. Apologies if I miss your question. So sorry. You can always send us a direct message on any of our social media accounts, Degrees and Careers, or you send us a mail. The details are in the chat box. At this point, I think we can end this session. Or do you have any other thing to say?
Basically, what I just want to advise test takers is try as much as possible to practice. Once you've learned the strategy, for example, now, if you see, I've mentioned all the strategies for listening, all right? So by the time you're able to attempt questions on that listening, you might not really score very high, or if you keep practicing, yes, if you keep practicing, your score will be improving. For example, if you have like 38/40, that's 8.5 to 9.0 band score. That's very, very okay. So the more you keep practicing, the more you keep getting higher score. And that applies for all other modules like reading, writing, and speaking too, okay? So in general, IELTS requires consistent practice, okay? So I think that will be all for now.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you so much, Prince, for hosting. Thank you for giving us these tips and everything. Degrees and Careers is our name on every social media platform, Twitter, Instagram, majorly where we put tips and social media content that can help you for IELTS on your study abroad journey. You can also send us a mail to mail, I think is in the chat box. So that's counselor@degreesandcareers.info. If you would like to write your IELTS test or get any preparatory material for your IELTS, you can send a mail to info@ielts.ng. Everything is in the chat box. Thank you everyone for joining once again. Again, you will get a link to this webinar. It will be sent to your email, provided you registered for it. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Prince. Have a nice day and see you in the next one.
Thank you. I'm grateful. All right. Bye-bye, everyone.